Good morning, everyone. Boker Tov. It was an interesting report that in 2024, book sales rose by 1% in America. But Bible sales rose by 22%. And the question is, why such an increase in sales of the Bible versus ordinary books? And I think the answer is quite obvious. We are living in very troubled and difficult times. And where do you turn to for hope, for inspiration, for encouragement? There's no better book than the Torah, the Bible, that inspires us each and every day to live our best lives. And one great example is the opening section of this week's Torah portion. This week's Torah portion talks about the story of the birth of Moses, who became the redeemer of the Jewish nation, bringing God's message, let my people go, which has echoed throughout all the generations, that God wants every human being who was created in His image to be free, just as God is free. But when it talks about the rescue of baby Moses from the Nile, the Torah tells us about the daughter of Pharaoh who goes down to the Nile to bathe and sees a baby crying in a wicker basket. And she stretches out her hand and saves baby Moses and raises him in the palace under the eyes of Pharaoh himself, who decreed that every Jewish baby boy should be drowned. And this baby, Moshe, grows up to be the redeemer of the Jewish nation. And our rabbis point out that it says she sent her hand to rescue the baby from the Nile. And our rabbis say in a stunning midrash that the basket was beyond her reach. And she stretched out her hand, and her hand became elongated and extended an amah, which is a few feet, to be able to reach the child. And what the rabbis are telling us is such a beautiful and powerful lesson in life. Sometimes we look at situations and we say, it's beyond our reach, it's beyond our grasp, we cannot achieve it. And the daughter of Pharaoh sees the baby beyond her physical reach. But she says, I will do my utmost. I will stretch out my hand as far as it can go. And then what does God do? He extends her hand to be able to reach the child. And whether this means literally as a midrash or metaphorically, the lesson is equally powerful. Here she is, the daughter of Pharaoh. Imagine the daughter of Hitler rescuing a Jewish child during the Holocaust. She defied her own father's decree because her own inner moral compass told her that this is wrong. And therefore, what the Torah is saying is she extended herself. She went beyond her comfort zone. She stretched herself. And she did what would have seemed to be the impossible. But look how that one act of reaching out and stretching out her hand saved not just baby Moshe, but ultimately saved an entire nation from slavery. And until this very day, every year on Passover, we recount that story and that message of freedom, which all began from a woman stretching out her hand and with God's assistance achieving what was not within her physical reach, but only with the help of God was able to achieve. And the lesson for all of us is, when we look at circumstances in life that may seem challenging and difficult to overcome, never say, it's not within my reach. Why bother stretching out my hand? You stretch out your hand as far as it can go, and God will extend it. As we are watching the fires raging in Southern California, our hearts go out to all the victims who died and all the people who lost all their physical possessions. And there's a rabbi by the name of Rabbi Mordechai Lightstone, and he says that his mother last week had to flee from her home. And she looked around and said, what should I take with me when I could only take just a few items? And he said, my mother went into the home and grabbed her mother's Shabbat candles and fled the fires with her mother's candles. And the question that everyone has to ask ourselves is, when you look at your life and you could take one thing, what would you take with you? And ultimately we realize that it's not the tangible things, it's the spiritual, sentimental things that have value to us because they connect us to our past. but also to our future. And that's why on the news you see mothers and fathers crying, and they say, more than anything else, we have no artwork from our children's kindergarten or preschool or love letters or photos. These are the things that have sentimental value because they remind us of who we are, where we come from, and where we are going in life through our children and grandchildren. And the journey of life is not about the material things, but it's about the deeds and the actions and the choices we make. And Pharaoh's daughter stands as an eternal testament that one good choice could transform the entire destiny and history of humankind. We never know when we extend our hand in goodness and kindness how far that reach will go. Have a wonderful day.